I'm struggling to find what is good about this one.
Oh my
I'll find it
goodness.
somewhere. I'll find it somewhere. Good
No
morning.
way, Chibuzor.
Just waking up. You're
No, no,
smiling.
yes, I'm
Yeah. So
alive.
that
I'm seated here.
yeah.
It's
So
good.
that
That's
is
good.
it's good.
That's good. So
Yes,
let's be
indeed.
let's be as positive as we can be.
Yes, let's sprinkle some positive dust in the
Let's positive as
air.
we can be. So good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Zibby. Good morning, Ouade.
All right. As always, we love you to be a part of the conversation. You can let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. And you can also tweet at smooth981. The hashtag is freshly pressed 981. So let's go on to the pages of Premium Times. Nigeria's inflation falls for first time in 11 months. Now, the inflation rate eased slightly, just for the first time in 11 months, to 21.34%. Now, previously in November, it was up at 21.47%. Now, the National Bureau of Statistics in the report said the country's inflation rate had shown this decline.
Okay, so when I saw this headline earlier this morning, I was a bit, I was, reaching out for the stars and hoping that better news. But when I saw the detail,
Mm.
I just had to hold back my enthusiasm and just have to look at it because, yes, the headline is that our inflation rates eased in December, but when we look at the detail, obviously it eased by 0.13%, which doesn't do much to help our current conditions or situations. But it's instructive to look also at some of the detail that was provided, specifically with terms of food inflation. So at this point, what has tended or has been said to be driving our inflation is largely obviously there's a demand inflation. We have well, some people say it's demand. A lot of people feel like it's more of supply, that we don't have enough things to meet the demand. So we have a shortage of supply of basically of things like food stuff, and that's what is driving. Because a lot of us have seen very high spikes or rises in prices over the last year, on the previous year, on price of basic food stuff, and that has obviously shown up a lot to most Nigerians about where we are really economically, and that's drive the perception. So there's one thing to look at the numbers, there's one thing to see what is actually hitting the people down at in their bellies and down in their pockets, and so we are not anywhere close to where we need to be. The challenge for me is that I don't see too much of this easing of any very soon, despite the fact that obviously that there's also some mention about the MPC meeting, which should be happening, I think, today or sometime
Next week.
Next week. But I don't see much of it easing because obviously politicians are more interested in the elections, which are around the corner. So there's a lot more focus on doing that than attending to what the issues are. But the issues are obviously have been on this table for a long time. We have had the impact of the Ukraine crisis, although that also should have figured in us any a bit more, not a bit more, but much more, because obviously the prices of crude actually increased in the international market. But obviously we have our own internal issues with subsidies, underproduction, and things like that. So that has also affected our ability to take advantage of that. But we also have the things of insecurity that also led to a lot of the food insecurity. General insecurity has led to food insecurity, which has led to obviously increasing food prices, which also is a major drag in the fact that we have that inflation is being driven by increases in food prices. So we have a lot of these basic elements that we need to sort out before we come out of this space. And obviously there are a lot of other things. One of the things I hope to see a lot more in this year is that monetary policy will meet fiscal policy somewhere, so that we know that we are moving in the same direction as a government and as a country. My own feel and my own thoughts are that both parts have been moving in different directions based on based on people who are driving both directions, and I don't think it's the best way forward for the country. But yes, let's take the little things that we can take and hope that January will probably bring better news than what we had for most of last year. So I think I'll leave it at that for now.
All right, so we're also streaming this live on YouTube, so you can catch the live stream just up on YouTube. Just search for Smooth981, and yeah, you'll find us on there. And you can also drop a comment on that stream if you'd like to. But let's move on to this story, and this is coming from Vanguard. Alleged graft treason, Tinubu Atiku seek each other's arrest, disqualification. Now, the intrigues trailing the race for the presidency assumed an interesting twist as the presidential candidate of the APC and his People's Democratic Party counterpart, um, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar called for the arrest and disqualification of each other over allegations of graft.
Wow. You know, I heard this when you mentioned the headline, and
Mm.
it was like, this is similar to me, you know, that popular saying that those whom the gods will, you know, they first make, and that's what's happening. I'm not going to mention those words on air. Um, this is the typical, you know, today you don't need to put the pot or the kettle, you know, the gas might not blacken the kettle, and since we have electric pots and also, but for me, these are two parties who have had smears in public, and the two of them are at loggerhead, and each person is telling the other that you are not fit, and this one is telling. So if both of them feel that the two of them are not fit, then for me, I think they should, you know, just move out of the race and let other people who we think or who they think are fit to go ahead and do that. But by and large, for me, what this tells me is that we as Nigerians have to make a decision about, based on all the information that has been in the public space, based on all the um, um, campaign issues that have been raised by all the contenders and all the presidential candidates across board, and at the end of the day go out en masse and say, okay, we would make this decision, let us help you decide who is fit, who is not fit, who is capable, who is not capable, who we think is righteous and who is not righteous, you know, at the end of the day, because that's what the story just speaks about. The two parties are throwing it at each other. In the story you hear that the driver of the APC campaign, Festus Keyamo, says he has written to the ICPC, he has written to to you know, different bodies, and within 72 hours, if they don't arrest the presidential candidate of the PDP, then he will go to court. And this is the same Keyamo who, when some allegations were brought against his own principal, went out and said, "Oh, it's an account and not a person." You know, so I don't know how a bank account number that just becomes a number and not the name of the account holder, and so on and so forth. And this is, for me, it just goes to show the the level of, in my own opinion, the level of decay in the system, where people are not willing to do the honorable thing. Not that Nigerians have ever really done the honorable thing over a long period, and this is it. So you're throwing these kind of things and mudslinging in the what's it called about each other, and these are people running for to be the president of Nigeria in 2023. Let's see how it goes.
Is this any different from the sort of kitchen sink tactics that we've seen in countries across the world, like the US, where you have, former US President Donald Trump throwing accusations and asking for people to be arrested?
It's not different, but like I said, let the electorate make that decision, and that is why this is good. Many things have been thrown out in the public space, and it's left for us as Nigerians to make decisions based on this. To speak about it every time, and give your own opinions. We can, until found guilty, a man is innocent until not found guilty. Until proven guilty, a man is always innocent. So since Kayamo decided, he has said he has reported to the ICPC, the security, the other regulatory bodies that should be in charge of investigation. And if there is nothing done, then he will go to court. Then let him go to court, and let's hear what the courts have to say about it.
So I think Ouade has made the clear point, and that's the final statement about going. If they feel that there's an issue, then they should go ahead to go to court. When you talk about what's the difference between this and what has happened in other countries, like, and you get the clear point of the USC, what typically happens in countries like the USC and what has happened is that when such allegations were made, they were looked upon in their merit. So, for instance, our good friend DT throws a lot of those things around. But you know that there have been several investigations that have come out that rightly or wrongly, and in fact, some of the things he threw around were based on the fact that there were some investigations already happening when he threw them around. So what I would like to see is that, yes, I'm hoping to see what happens after 72 hours with Festus Keyamo. But if that doesn't happen, the thing is, at the end of the day, if, and I don't know, I can't see into a crystal ball and see who's going to win the elections. But what I don't want to see is that it stops just at making allegations as part of the pre-election, mudslinging. If there's actually some truth in what you've said,
and
then
some
keep-
level of evidence.
and some level of evidence. Don't trade around like garage talk, because unfortunately that's what a lot of the populace consume, and it becomes true in their minds and becomes true on the street. Go ahead and push it through that system that you claim to be a champion of, and let's see the outcomes of it.
All right, let's move on to Punch. ASU may sue federal government over withheld salaries. Now, the Academic Staff Union of Universities may drag the federal government over its members' 8-month withheld salaries. Now, ASU will resort to court once the government goes ahead to pay members of the parallel union, the Congress of Nigerian University Academics, CONWA. Now, counsel for ASU, Femi Falana, disclosed this in an interview with The Punch this Monday.
So we're back to our alphabet soup, and it's good that we have the alphabet soup when we're talking about academics and academic union. So there's, thanks to the last set of strikes, that we now have CONWA and we now have ASU. So I think this started off when CONWA said, basically raised an alarm that that they weren't being paid, and basically their grounds was that they were being put in the same bucket as ASU members. Who had gone on strike and withheld services and were not paid for those periods. And Connor was saying, hey, we are not ASU members, we didn't withhold service despite the fact that lectures did not really happen, but we should be paid. And they've gone to, I think they petitioned the government asking that they should be paid, that they didn't go on strike. On the other hand, ASU is like, we're waiting for you to see if you're going to pay these guys, and if you pay these guys, we'll take you to court also, and we'll go through that entire process. It's a bit sad. It's a bit sad what's happening, because basically what we've seen and what I've experienced even as an undergraduate some years back in Nigeria is that, at the end of each strike, when ASU finishes their strike, you have SANU and all the non-academic guys waiting to start their own strike. Now we brought in CONWA. I think this government felt that the CONWA card was going to be their trump card in the last strike, and it worked. But from my experience, what would tend to happen is that over a particular period of time, it becomes another bottleneck you have to deal with. And that doesn't speak that I'm not against the fact that there is Nigerians have, you have the right of association and you have the right to form as many unions as you possibly can. But what I want to see is that, what do these unions really stand for? What are these unions really protecting? What rights are they giving? What services are they protecting? Because what I see is, and we have so many organizations claiming to represent people, but what exactly are they doing in reality? Are these guys part of the policy making decision? Are they putting forward policy papers? Are they just waiting for the eventualities of failures in the system, then they can go on strike? That's my challenge with some of the organizations, and that's speaking to a larger problem. But in this situation, we're just basically watching and waiting to see what happens. Unfortunately, I really wish I had a timeline of when CONWA was actually founded. I know it was late last year. In fact, it was mid-Australia. So
sometime in July, August.
Yeah, so because I'm looking at their timeline of asking, because they're basically trying to separate themselves from ASU and say, hey, we should be paid for the backlogs. And because we are no members of ASU, and hey, if your association only came into being at this set time, and really you will lump you with the rest. But let's see how the government plays this. My fear is that this is just going to be one of those things that this current government is going to put in a file and present to their
the ones that are going to take over from it.
Go and deal with it. We're out of this place. Yeah, so that's what it is.
Okay, we've got some comments coming through. This one is from Orov, and he says, how and who founded CONWA? On what basis was it founded? CONWA is a fraud and was clearly set up to divide ASU. No value added, just a clear divisive strategy. And Aisha says, isn't this slandering enough grounds to disqualify the two presidential candidates? The candidates should be above board to be running for the highest office. Femi from VI says, Donald Trump evaded tax, grabbed women. Biden's son was implicated. Hillary was implicated. You can't say a candidate should not run because of allegations. This is a democracy. Cast your own vote. Okay, and let's move on to Punch. Emefiele, DSS running battle paused as CBN governor resumes. Now, the battle between the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Department of State Services over a plan to arrest the CBN governor may have been put on hold as Emefiele resumes duty. The CBN governor on Monday resumed office at the headquarters after spending several weeks in the UK and the United States following reported plots by the DSS to arrest him.
Okay, so the good thing, the CBN has put out a statement that Emefiele went on leave, his standard leave, and he went to the UK and the US, and he's back in the office from yesterday. The other good thing about this is also saying, and the DSS, bringing out the statement clearly, and we know that the DSS went to court early in December, and the court said they couldn't arrest him. So let's see how it plays out. There's a monetary policy meeting next week, 23rd and 24th. So we want to see what the DSS now has in store. Are they going to go to a higher court to seek an arrest warrant and arrest him within this period, which I don't think they will do. And at the end of the day, what do we want? Like Chibuzor was saying, we need to ensure that during this electoral period and through the transition of this government, both monetary and fiscal policy management is seen to be transparent, because it will be a rude shock not only to Nigerians. I know not more Nigerians are continually saying, "Oh, he's committed an offense X Y Z ABC." But the other question for me is, do you, because if you went to court and court says no, what it tells me is you don't have enough evidence for you to get an arrest warrant. Because if you had enough evidence, the court will tell you to go arrest the person irrespective of who he or she is, and that's what I think is going to play out over the next 1 month. I'm not sure anybody wants to disrupt the management of the economy just before the elections. Maybe after the elections we'll come back to this story in full force and see whether Emefiele will decide whether he has had enough at the CBN and resign. Otherwise, I see him staying out his term.
So I think I think one of the major things and this is more of a hope and a prayer, that we'll get to the point where the DSS maybe in the future probably will focus more on security issues. Because yes, I know some people argue and say there are some elements of security in what is, because obviously there's some claims and we don't know what's on the table really. But I think at some point we just need to get to that point. We've seen too much of the DSS. It's no longer, there's nothing. It used to be the SSS where it used to be secret. There's nothing secret about it.
It's now more DSS than the FCC.
Yes, yeah, that's the thing. So maybe one day, and maybe I'm the one who's misinformed, but that's what I think. We're seeing too much of them.
All right, let's take a quick break. The conversation will continue here on Freshly Pressed. We see your messages coming through. Please keep them coming. 0809 440 981 via WhatsApp.
Nigeria.
Every little thing. The other day when I was
everything is
around December, I was driving out. I went to buy fuel on Ouade Road, and they were doing the inspection of petrol stations to see they were selling fuel. I'm like,
when they came out of the meeting,
what they should be doing.
And Ipman was saying that he can't work at 170, and the major marketers were saying, okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Then the DSS published a statement that they give petrol stations 48 hours to start selling petrol. Like you put the money inside their pocket.
When doctors were traveling now, they were at the airport to stop. Like, what is this? Where did we get it?
Okay, we're going on. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. It's Zibby here, and of course with my analyst Chibuzor and Ouade. We see your messages coming through 0809 440 981. And let's move on to the next story, and this one is coming from this day. Federal government set to resume work on major highways, restores road barricades. Now, the federal government has announced that contractors on the major highways were set to resume work after the Christmas and New Year break, stressing that in order to ensure that things go on as they should, barricades will also be restored. Now, in December, the government had ordered the removal of blockades from key roads to aid the free flow of traffic during the festive period.
So I guess basically that's the story.
That is the
That's
story.
the story.
We're back to the gridlocks.
Yeah, that's the story. So obviously December, as part of the Yuletide celebrations, like I said, the government basically tried to, with Ministry of Works, basically try to ease traffic or try to help traffic along by opening various routes that were under construction. So the major ones mentioned obviously for some of the guys that went down the east and enjoyed the second Niger Bridge. That was one of them. You had a bit of easing on Lagos Ibadan, and I think also had the Abuja Kaduna Kano that was also opened up at that point. But yes, based on the plans based on the times and plans and the schedules of the contractors and the federal and the Ministry of Works, these roads are still under construction. So what they've done is to put back the barricades and go back to work. So we're hoping that they continue the work. We're hoping that they complete those roads on time and on schedule, and Nigerians probably will be able to see the value of those roads in full effect when they are done. So we are hoping them the best. I don't think there's anything to add to it. We're hoping that we'll be able to follow the completion of those projects if we've not already done that. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. That's the story.
All right. Messages coming through. Okpayemi Pray says, our biggest problem is leadership. Both ASU and federal government are guilty of this. They are not willing to solve the real problem. The problem to solve is how to fund the higher institutions sustainably. Dan Okuda says, good morning. Both candidates have a lot of baggage hanging from their necks. And Gilbert Musa says, good morning. On the issue, on the current CBN rates, partly affected by growing insecurity in Nigeria. The question is, what did we do as a country from 2015 and 2016 when the herdsman attacks were obvious in Kogi and Benue states? Okay, let's move on to this day. Policeman killed as gunmen again attack INEC office in Enugu. A police officer was killed Sunday night, and another sustained injuries when gunmen attacked the INEC office at Amechi Aukunawa in Enugu State. Now, the hoodlums who struck at around 9 p.m., according to a statement by the INEC National Commissioner, were repelled by police and army personnel from the 82 Division. The state commissioner has ordered an immediate investigation and manhunt for those responsible for the attack.
It's just, first and foremost, my sincere condolences to the family of the policeman who lost his life, the one who is being treated in hospital. I hope he recovers as quickly as possible. But thank God that the combined team of both the police and the army were able to repel the gunmen. But it's becoming more and more, I don't know whether to use the word ridiculous or ludicrous when you find out that INEC offices have been attacked. Is it that those people don't want the elections to hold? And if you don't want the elections to hold, why? Why are you doing all this? We should be able to transition like we did in 2015 through free and fair elections and transition to a new administration. Kudos to them, and I hope they would put in place better security with their INEC offices. You know, something where Chibuzor and I were talking about downstairs was you only had 2 policemen guarding the INEC office, and sometimes you see a truckload of policemen, you know, escorting, in quotes, officials, and it just beats me why we would never have enough security personnel, you know, working for the safety and of lives and security of lives and property in Nigeria, because a number of them are attached to different things and different places that really shouldn't be. Maybe it's time to start looking at the possibilities of ensuring that private security firms, you know, are properly licensed, are properly authorized for those who want to carry arms, are properly authorized to carry arms, and not just for the government security operatives to be the only ones that have to provide security for 200 million Nigerians, and a number of them are never available for the 200 million. Rather, they are available for maybe 0.5 or 1% of the people.
Now, this is not the first time that there's been an attack on an INEC facility in the southeast. In some way, would this or could this affect voter turnout?
Possibly, but from from what I've seen, throughout the campaign and the basis of what Nigerians are looking at for this election, I just feel in my from the pits of my guts that the turnout for elections across Nigeria will be quite massive. We might be seeing 50-60% voter turnout.
Mm. All right, we've got some messages coming through. Mary from Alakbere says, good morning. The federal government cannot continue to play politics with our university education. The new union might eventually become a bigger monster than ASU. Granting the universities financial autonomy will be the way to go. Idima Puza says, when has Chatham House become an examination center for Nigerian politicians? Why are we belittling ourselves before our former colonial masters as if we are not independent? Okay. And Yinka Bolu says, the simple solution to ending the burning of INEC offices is that a law should be passed that allows anyone from any part of Nigeria vote anywhere during only presidential elections. Governorship elections should be restricted to state citizens alone because we have people doing nothing to check this that is happening. It's not a ghost who burns this INEC office.
I think state residency will be the better word to use for the what's it called, the governorship and the state national assembly. So if I'm resident in Lagos, I should be able to vote. I don't have to say because I come from one part, I have to go back and go and vote for the governor of any state you don't live in. It doesn't add value to you.
All right. Moving on to Punch. Police rescue kidnapped DPO in Plateau State. Police command says it's rescued the DPO, Wapi Augustus, who was abducted by gunmen. Okay, that's the story.
Yeah, I have the stories today. So, the DP of Pashkin was kidnapped about 7 days. No, sorry, yeah, on the 11th. So that's about 6 days ago, and he was rescued by a combined force of the police, hunters, other security forces. They also went into action. We were able to rescue him. He's back in the hospital, trying to recover from his experience and get better and return back to the job. It's for me, it's also partly a feel-good story on one side, but the other side, because obviously he was a police officer. I have nothing against police officers, but I'd like to see a lot more of this happening to a lot more citizens. In fact, what we need to get to the point where fewer of these are even happening at all in the first place, where they are able to even kidnap the individuals. But let's take it as it is. Thankfully, he has his life and family has him back, and he will back to business as soon as he recovers.
All right, our final story. FGCRE, parents of abducted female students beg Nigerians for 100 million naira as ransoms for terrorists. Parents of the 11 remaining abducted female students of FGCRE in Kebbi State have appealed to Nigerians to come to their aid financially in order to rescue their children from the abductors. Now, these children were kidnapped when bandits invaded the school way back in June 2021.
Just to borrow relief from what Chibuzor said, I wish the police, 6 days to rescue the DPO. If they could have just spent the same 5-6 days to rescue these 11 children that have been kept in captivity for the last 7 months. And ransom. So that's the new business in Nigeria, and the security operatives, rather than find out, get the intelligence to stop a number of these, are busy chasing, for me, what I'll call shadows around.
So it's 20 months. It's 20 months.
Wow.
2021.
Yeah.
20 months.
20, sorry.
These are girls.
Yeah. These are,
They are no longer girls.
They are no longer girls.
This is so heartbreaking.
If it took the police 6 days to rescue their DPO, then they should have done this in 1 day.
Okay, I'm going to take a final message. State residency agreed there must be a time limit to it. Say in the last 4 years, you just don't decide to transfer your voters card from perhaps Enugu to, let's say, or your state, just because we can't look at ourselves and tell ourselves the truth. We as citizens of states must provide information to the security agencies to ensure that this madness stops. All right.
1 year, I think, is adequate. Because if you are transferred to move from one state to the other, then within a year you should.
So for me, you reside in a state.
Is resident.
Provide proof of evidence. Provide proof of tax payments, because today our tax means I pay my taxes to Lagos State, not to Delta State.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that's all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you so much, Wade. Thank you, Chibuzor, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Zibby.